Before we get underway, yes, I wanted to say thank you to those who noticed in the previous video. We have ourselves a brand new sponsor here on the channel. Give it up for ExpressVPN. Before we get underway with this video, hey, ExpressVPN is the #1 virtual private network service on the internet, and they do a great job at making sure that you're able to browse the internet securely with some of the best data encryption technology as well as the ability to bypass geo restrictions. You have yourselves an opportunity here to get 3 free months just because you're a fan of this YouTube channel, so go ahead and click the link in the description if you're interested in ExpressVPN. Go ahead, support the channel. It is a great service. Let's get into our video here for today because we have ourselves another update to go over when it comes to Logan Brown, the Ottawa Senators' top pick from the 2016 NHL Entry Draft, whom we have spoken about a ton because of his peculiar spot at the moment. We had ourselves what was an update going over the Logan Brown contract situation earlier last week because he's one of the 2 remaining RFAs on the team alongside of Brady Tkachuk, so both of these 2 need new contracts. The Tkachuk negotiations, they haven't really been going all too well based off of what we've been seeing in the media so far, but the Logan Brown complications have been even worse. We had ourselves some reports coming out from Bruce Garriock about how Logan Brown just doesn't want to be a part of the Sens anymore and that he wants a trade. Well, that update has been expanded upon a little bit more from Sean Simpson earlier yesterday. Let's go over an update that he had over here on Twitter. Sens updates on this holiday Monday. Lots of chatter that Logan Brown will indeed be moved. One thing is for sure though, I'm told that he is not coming to Ottawa. He'll go play in Sweden if he's not moved too. That wouldn't really be all too bad of a move. If I'm the Sens, I hold on to his rights unless a deal is good. So, Sean Simpson is another Ottawa Senators beat reporter. He does different stuff on TSN 1200. Garriock is part of the Ottawa Sun. 2 separate sources here that primarily cover the Ottawa Senators are going out here with the same story that Logan Brown indeed wants out, and the new update is he'll probably be out sometime before training camp. So, if Logan Brown is really in a position where it's like, yeah, I just don't want to be here, man, I feel like I want to take my career elsewhere, then this is the kind of thing that Brian Burke was talking about on TV, wasn't it? If you have an asset that doesn't want to be a part of your team, plain and simple, get rid of that distressed asset. He doesn't want to be here? Fine. Trade him away. It's just a tad more complicated because, hey, if you have yourselves all of the TSN media guys saying on air that, yeah, this guy wants out, all of a sudden it's a lot easier for other NHL GMs to say, oh, you're trying to trade Logan Brown, eh? Well, look, he really wants out, so why should we feed into the price that you want? We're going to give you less than what you're asking for, Ottawa, for this Logan Brown trade because we know that your client wants out and that you're kind of handcuffed in this situation where you need to trade him. It makes things a little bit more difficult for the Ottawa Senators to go about things in that way, but at the end of the day, if it is true that Logan Brown does indeed want out, you gotta get rid of this player. Plain and simple. There have already been so many other Ottawa Senators fans, in my comment section in particular, who've been talking this entire time about the entire Logan Brown story in Ottawa. We said this in the previous video, but he was an 11th overall pick. He was one of the top guys in 2016, and if you take a look at the talent that was left off the board when you selected 11th overall, Logan Brown, hey, Charlie McAvoy went immediately after. So did Jacob Chychrun, Dante Fabro. You have yourselves some other names later on into the first round, like Tage Thompson, like Brett Howden. Sure, they're not really as good as some later guys like Alex DeBrincat, for example, who is an absolute monster. Samuel Girard was taken in the 2nd round as well. But you have yourselves some pretty good names that were taken after Logan Brown here in the draft. And part of a draft isn't necessarily who you're taking per se. Well, I mean, it is, but that's not the entire point over here. The other part of the draft is taking a look at who you're leaving off the board. Is it a good move to take Philip Broberg when Trevor Zegras and Cole Caulfield are still there on the board? Is it a good move to take Dylan Strome when Mitch Marner went right after? There are a whole bunch of questions you still have to be asking yourselves, not just about who you're taking, but who you're leaving off the board. And Logan Brown, the way he has progressed so far as an 11th overall draft pick, has been nothing short of disappointing. He hasn't really gone anywhere in the NHL so far because every time they want to try to bring him up, he's not able to play. His injuries have really gotten the best out of him the past few years, and that's really unfortunate to see. It's definitely not his fault that he is getting injured. It's just, at what point do you say, man, is it really worth it to go out there and still try to work with this experiment when it's just been so unfulfilling this entire time? We'd noted it before, but hey, he's been great in the AHL with the Belleville Senators. Under point-per-game campaigns in 2018-19 and 2019-20. This season, though, he only played 14 games in total, and the majority of the points came in the AHL, so it wasn't really a good year for Logan Brown anyway. But he was always a pretty solid AHL guy, which is why I've been super high on Logan Brown still, because this guy was showing off in the American Hockey League the skills that made him an 11th overall pick back in 2016. He has the talent, he just wasn't available, nor was he ever in a position to really use it at the NHL level. So with the reports earlier on that he did indeed want out of Ottawa, and with this new report over here from Simpson saying that he is indeed going to be traded, what other choice do you have other than just hoping that Pierre Dorion gets the best return possible for this kind of guy, and that he probably goes out there and makes himself a good NHL career elsewhere? Maybe send him to Carolina because he's from Raleigh. Give him that hometown connection over there. I am kind of intrigued, though, as to the alternate options for Logan Brown, too. Should he not be traded, he's not even going to come to training camp. He's just going to stick around in Sweden, play hockey over there, because, hey, they can just send him out over on loan to Europe and he'll play his hockey days over there. But I do find intrigue in the perspective that Simpson brings up at the end of this tweet over here. If I'm the Senators, I'm holding on to his rights unless a deal is good. That's the old Jesse Puljujarvi treatment right there. That's the old, okay, you really want out, so much to the point that you would rather go over to Europe and play your season over there than signing a contract and sticking around here. Okay, well, if we're not going to go out there and get ourselves a trade offer that we find appropriate, then you're not going anywhere, Logan Brown. Sorry, you're sticking in an organization, you're going to go out there, you're going to play in Europe, you're going to come back when you feel it's okay, and then you're going to play for us then, unless we get ourselves an actually good offer. That is almost cut and paste the exact same thing that happened with Jesse Puljujarvi with the Oilers, because he wanted out earlier in his career. They said no, they sent him over to Europe, he played a season over there, and then he came back because he was like, okay, I'm fine now, I think I'm gonna be okay with playing in Edmonton, especially since they don't really have any trade offers for me, I'm just gonna play here. Let's see how it goes. And it goes really well. So maybe if they try to go down that route of just waiting it out, you get yourselves a Logan Brown who is somewhat motivated to come back. But would you really want to go out there and wait another year for a guy who is already 23 years old and who is in this position where he hasn't played a significant chunk of NHL time? If you wait until next year for that entire plan to go through, he'll be 24 when he returns. He would have played so much time in the AHL, and adding on to Europe too, there really wouldn't be too much of an NHL development curve for Logan Brown to go down anymore should you wait that full extra year, like Simpson is suggesting you probably should be thinking about. So for Logan Brown, talk to me in the comments, what do you think about the entire notion of him definitively being traded? At this point, what is it that you want in return for Logan Brown? You flubbed a draft pick, that's established. You're not going to get a first-round pick, that's 11th overall anymore for this kind of guy, that's established. But with what you have right now, an AHL body that is good in the American League but has never been available at the NHL level, you could talk about attitude, you could talk about injuries, all that stuff somewhat brings him down in these negotiations. What is it that you would be okay with receiving in a Logan Brown trade? He's not worth all too much anymore, but if it's a second-round pick, if it's a prospect, a B-tier guy, maybe a third and a fourth and a fifth or whatever, tell me in the comments, what exactly is it that you would be okay with? And furthermore, tell me in the comments as well, what do you think would actually be the return? Because just because you're saying, okay, I want Connor McDavid for Logan Brown, doesn't mean you're going to get Connor McDavid, it's just what you would realistically want. I asked the second question, though, because when it comes to a player like this who has been so unavailable at the NHL level, it's tough for me personally to try to evaluate what that would be worth on the trade block, because if I'm an opposing NHL GM, I wouldn't really know what I would want to give up for this kind of guy. Like, you would really only be swinging on potential, because when it comes to what exactly he has shown off, I mean, unless you're thinking, okay, I'm going to trade for Logan Brown because I want a good AHL top guy to produce on our farm team, you're not really going to be getting all too much guaranteed in the bucket there. So, talk to me in the comments, what do you think about these Logan Brown trade negotiations and the idea that he will be traded, he's no longer going to be a part of the Senators, because if he is not traded, he's just going to go over to Sweden. ExpressVPN is there for you, go ahead, check the link in the description for their packages, and to help out the channel as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, Josh Rolls 99, and bye.